Hello everyone, it's Jose from Haunted Cruise. Welcome back to my channel, and thanks for dropping in. That didn't sound awkward at all, did it? So I don't know about you, but I am pretty jazzed about this video that we are doing today. It is the long-awaited, and by long-awaited I mean by me, long-awaited return and second part to our Goosebumps by Memory series. If y'all didn't have the privilege of catching the first video that we did in this little series, the premise is pretty simple. I grew up on the Goosebumps books by R.L. Stine, and I knew that in making this YouTube channel I was going to acknowledge and cover the creepy books, all the creepy books that I used to read as a kid in the 90s and early aughts. And of course, it seems impossible to do that or talk about that period of genre literature for kids without addressing the elephant in the room, the Goliath that is the Goosebumps franchise. But when I set out making the channel, I wasn't sure if I wanted to have all the creepy kid book coverage be just about Goosebumps. So I was trying to figure out that happy medium. How do I acknowledge this huge part of my life from childhood while at the same time making room for other authors and other series that I either read or I'm just discovering now from this time period. And so the way that I hit upon to do that is to just run through the original 62 books from this series. I'm not rereading these like some channels and other shows do. I'm not rereading them. I'm simply going through the books, barreling through as fast as I can, and just giving my thoughts, my old thoughts of when I originally read these books, trying to memorize, in a sense, what my impressions were, details about the stories. So how that works is I have a handy-dandy little printout here of all the books, all the original 62 books from the series. What we have here are the titles, the taglines from the front and back cover, and we also have the back copy, that little plot summary on the back of the books that gave you an idea of what the story was about. And I read through these, and then from those I kind of share my thoughts. I try to rekindle my old memories of these books here for you now in the format of this video. I also do this silly little thing where I try to re-tagline the books. I try to come up with something better or worse, and it's usually worse than the cheesy little taglines that these spooky stories for kids had initially. So that is exactly what we are going to do. I'm really excited for this because when I first did the first video, I just had a lot of fun with it. It was great reading these plot summaries and talking about these books, trying to creatively come up with even bigger stinkers of a tagline than what these books initially received. I just had a real ball with it, so I've been really jonesing to get back to it, get this second video in. For the first video, I only accomplished getting through the first 9 books. Didn't even make it to a nice even 10. So basically I'm just going to see how far I can go before the battery on my phone dies. As you can tell from that detail, I am super good at this YouTube thing, and I prepare well enough in advance by making sure that my battery is adequately charged. That's not the case at all, and we're just gonna see how long this video lasts before it cuts out and I vanish into nothingness like some of these kids from these stories. So I'm just gonna dive into these, and like I said, I'm just pulling from the cesspool of my memory here. So if I do remember a story particularly well, I will fess up if that was influenced in any way by, say, like the TV series. If I remember the details of the adaptation better than the story itself, I'm going to be 100% honest and straight with all of you. I'm just recalling all of this stuff right here and now in this video. And of course, if I happen to get anything wrong, or even if I don't get anything wrong and I just talk about a book that you have really fond or not so fond memories of, leave us a comment. I love hearing from all of you, especially in a series like this where some of us will have vivid memories of one book or another. I love hearing that kind of stuff. I'd love to respond to you, so drop us a comment if you feel like sending us a message in relation to any of the stuff we're covering here, or just any creepy old topic in general. You can send that message to our email address, which is hauntedcruise@gmail.com. Alright, let's get into it. Number 10, The Ghost Next Door. Front tagline: there's a strange new kid on the block. Back tagline: quote, how come I've never seen you before? Hannah's neighborhood has just gotten a little weird ever since that new boy moved in next door. But when did he move in? Wasn't the house empty when Hannah went to sleep the night before? Why does it still look deserted? She's not getting any answers from her new neighbor. He just keeps disappearing in the oddest ways. And he's so pale. Is Hannah being haunted by the ghost next door? Triple question mark. I don't know why the excessive punctuation is honestly necessary. It's like, just one question mark would have done. We get that it's a question. The extra 2 question marks really don't make it any more of a question than before, but whatever. There you go. So, The Ghost Next Door, I have to admit, this one I know that I read. I can almost picture myself sitting there with the book, scanning the pages, but I feel like every time I think of this story, I am envisioning the episode from the TV series. Like, those are the memories that I have of it. I like this story because it's a little bit of a heartbreak, right? And just so you know, before I advance any further, I'm going to spoil the endings of these books. That's no secret if you watched the first video, but just letting you know now. If for anyone who has interest in going back and reading these 25-year plus old books and want to retain the suspense of those shock surprise endings. Oh yeah, that was the other thing, is that I try to guess the surprise ending. Isn't this fun? I'm remembering things as I film the video. It's totally professional. But anyway, for those of you who want to retain the suspense and the shock, you probably don't want to watch this video. But for those of you who don't give a crap about any of that, listen and view on. But anyway, this story is a little bit of a heartbreak. It makes me think of episodes from other TV series, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, the Tale of the Prom Queen, I think is the name of the episode I'm thinking of. But in any case, it's that time-honored ending of they were dead all along. In this case, it's our friend Hannah. She is actually the ghost next door, not the mysteriously pale boy who has moved in mysteriously. Did I say mysteriously twice? But it's kind of a sad story, and it's interesting too because, as I mentioned in the last video in discussing Goosebumps, death was something that was never really on the table. We always knew that the heroes would come out alright in the end. If they were in any kind of mortal danger, usually there would be kind of like a cheapo type tactic of sorts to say that, oh, they were dreaming, or it was just a fantasy of some kind, or they were robots, don't worry, they weren't real kids, nothing really bad happened to them. But that's not quite the case with this one here. Hannah is a ghost. This story is being told from her perspective, so she has in fact died and gone on to some form of afterlife. And that's not something we saw really at all in the series, so this is a little bit of a landmark of sorts. It is also, of course, very reminiscent of another YA favorite roughly from this time period, which is Christopher Pike's Remember Me, which I actually read for the first time last year. But in that book, it's more of a conscious realization. The character realizes that they're dead, that they've actually been murdered. Here, it's only kind of a gradual reckoning where Hannah realizes that she's actually the ghost next door. So there's a little touch of sadness to it. I also like the idea of the menacing shadow, the kind of amorphous threat that's following Hannah and her friend throughout the story, which essentially turns out to be a kind of angel of death. So, touching on a little bit of a heavier tone than some of the other goofier Goosebumps books. So I do appreciate that quality of this book, even if I don't necessarily remember the details of the book itself. Okay, so Ghost Next Door. Well, we've already discussed what the shock ending was. Hannah is dead. But let's take a look at these taglines. There's a strange new kid on the block, and how come I've never seen you before? So one of them is a quote. The other one's just kind of a generic reiteration of the title. So let's see if we can think of something maybe a little more punny. So the Ghost Next Door. Oh, okay, I think I've got one. Be sure to wipe your sheet on the front mat, because she's a ghost, which ghosts are typically depicted as wearing sheets, so sheet instead of feet. You can tell it's a really good tagline when I have to explain the lameness of the joke itself, so it in fact becomes even more lame. So like I said, these are bad. I'm not coming up with anything better for the most part, but you know, we have to start somewhere, and that's where I'm starting with today's video. Wipe your sheet on the front mat. Number 11, The Haunted Mask. Front tagline, if looks could kill. Back tagline, face to face with a nightmare. How ugly is Carly Beth's Halloween mask? I don't know. How ugly is it? That part was me. It's so ugly. Well, it's so ugly that it almost scared her little brother to death. So terrifying that even her friends are totally freaked out by it. It's the best Halloween mask ever. It's everything Carly Beth hoped it would be. And more. Maybe too much more, because Halloween is almost over, and Carly Beth is still wearing that special mask. Ooh, you know, the back copy could be kind of interesting, a little goofy at times, but I gotta admit, that one is pretty good. I especially like it because it insinuates what the threat or the spooky thing is. In this case, it's the fact that Carly Beth can't take the mask off. It doesn't come right out and necessarily say that, though, in the most obvious Goosebumps fashion. It just kind of gives you an impression of time. Time has passed. Halloween is almost over, but the mask isn't going anywhere. That's good. That's good. Props to whoever wrote that back copy. So the Haunted Mask, one of the stalwarts of the Goosebumps series. Very, very memorable adaptation for the TV episode. It was actually their first episode that they did, so it really kind of put its best foot forward in making that episode. The cover to this thing is legitimately terrifying. Like, that is a mean looking puss that the mask has there. You get a little bit of a Jim Carrey mask vibe from it, but it's like its Green Goblin cousin with the dripping fangs, and you know, I love that you can't see Carly Beth's face. It's as if she's holding it up in lieu of her own, and that kind of visually and thematically ties into the story. So it's a great, stark, startling image that has thematic resonance with the story, and it really grabs you from across the room. Great cover. For all the kind of iconic status that this book has, I really don't remember reading this one. I feel like I have more vivid memories of reading the sequel, Haunted Mask 2, to be quite honest with you. But of course, this is a great fun story because it's kind of the pinnacle of the Halloween-themed and set Goosebumps stories. It was the first to do so, and same with the TV series, really put its best foot forward in presenting this story as the first of the Halloween stories. And it's just a lot of fun, you know? It's got a cool, creepy concept that I think a lot of kids can relate to. They want to be scary. They don't want to be just the same lame old costume. They want to be scary, but then what happens when you're too scary? And what happens when you start to get scared yourself? So it really plays on these very interesting and almost kind of opposing schools of thought, if you will, on fear. How at times we want to be a little fearful in our presence or demeanor, but then when that fear is turned on us, it is very unsettling and we don't like it at all. It's kind of like the whole bit of staring into the abyss. The abyss stares back into you, right? So this story is what happens when Carly Beth looks into that abyss and she sees the haunted mask staring back at her. So like I said, not too many fresh details on the story itself. This one is honestly just so ingrained because of the TV episode and the universal nature of the story itself. It's almost kind of like a classic work of literature in the sense that you have a defined sense of what the story is and even the style, but the actual moment by moment scenes and whatnot aren't necessarily right at the top of your head. So that's kind of the case with me in this book, is that I have a pretty solid sense of it, but I don't especially remember reading it, which is kind of a strange thing. But anyway, oh boy, what is the surprise ending from this one? I believe it's that her little brother tries the mask on, right? I think I'm probably remembering that from the episode, but Carly Beth thinks that she's finally vanquished the mask through the power of love, because she's waving her little wax mask that her mother made in her likeness, and ooh, look how much my mom loves me, and that kills the mask. But then, as it turns out, the mask just finds a new home on her little brother's face, the annoying little brother. Oh god, if he wasn't already obnoxious enough, right? So that's a surprise ending. What about a new tagline? Let's see if we can come up with a new tagline. If looks could kill is a pretty good one. But let's see. The Haunted Mask, Halloween, Ooh, I think I actually just thought of a rhyming one, so that's a new one for me. Let's see how it actually plays. Okay. Trick or treat. Sticky sweet. Because it's Halloween and the mask is sticking on her face. And there's that idea of candy. Y'all get where I'm going with that, yeah? Number 12. Be careful what you wish for. Front tagline. It might come true. Nice little continuation of the title. Back tagline. Make a wish. Okay, I'm confused. Title said be careful what you wish for. Front tagline said it might come true. And then the back tagline says make a wish. What are you trying to tell me here? Goosebumps number 12. I don't get it. Samantha Bird is a klutz. An accident waiting to happen. She's the laughingstock of the girls' basketball team. And that mean, rotten Judith Bellwood, is making her life miserable on and off the court. But everything's about to change. Sam's met someone who can grant her 3 wishes. For real. Too bad Sam wasn't careful what she wished for, because her wishes are coming true, and they're turning her life into a living nightmare. Okay, folks, I gotta be honest with you. I really have no memory of this book. I know I read it. There are just like 2 books from the original 62 that I know for a fact that I didn't read, but I know I read this one, and I cannot remember a damn thing about it. Isn't that sad? What a sorry state my life is in. I can't remember the events from Be Careful What You Wish For. One of the things that I only remember is the first sentence from the plot summary, Samantha Bird is a klutz. I remember the general idea that, yeah, she was on a basketball team, she was a supposed athlete, but she was just all over the place. Legs and arms, just falling over, pratfalls, very slapstick. But yeah, I have no memory of this story. I think she bumps into the lady on the street. Does she, like, help her across the street? Does she, like, tote her groceries for her? I feel like it was some kind of street scene where she helped this wish-making lady out. She did her a good deed. She was a good Samaritan in some way or another. But yeah, that's about it. Pretty much what you heard from the back copy, that's what I remember of this book. I have no idea what her wishes were. I can only make some crazy guess. Like, I think she maybe wished she was taller or better at basketball, and she, like, grew really tall, like, you know, giant-sized. I have no idea if that's right. Y'all really need to help me out with this one. I have no memory of this book. As sorry as it is to say, I feel like, in a way, a grade school boy, we're looking at this cover. You maybe got a sense that, oh, this was a girly story. Look at the pink and purple colors, and there's a girl on the cover, and there's another girl on the cover. You could tell from her long painted nails, and it's more woo-woo than like super hardcore scary monsters and ventriloquist dummies and blah. It's like, oh, crystal ball, and she's just granting her wishes, and it's total stupid boy stuff and assumptions about this story. And I think that played into my kind of meh, just having it wash over me at the time when I read it. I just kind of read it and forgot it. So I feel like that might have played a part in it. As sad as that is to say, that's just the reality, unfortunately. I think I've gotten better since then. I certainly would hope so. But I think that's the case here. So sorry, be careful what you wish for. I don't remember you. So suffice to say, I can't even try to guess what the shock ending to this story was. So I'm just gonna throw something completely random out there. Okay, so be careful what you wish for. She gets 3 wishes. The wishes turn out terribly. Let's say, okay, so maybe I'll be a little creeped out if this actually turns out to be correct. Did like maybe Samantha see this Judith Bellwood person talking to the wish granting lady? Like, oh no, I learned my lesson and I got away scot-free just barely, but oh no, now my greatest enemy in school is falling prey to this djinn in human form. I don't know, that could be it, could be totally wrong, but if nothing else, I just came up with a new and maybe better ending, which is not what I've been doing, but maybe that's what just happened. But let's see if I can come up at least with a new tagline. So be careful what you wish for, it might come true. Meh, that's kind of lame. It's just, like I said, just a continuation of the title. So be careful what you wish for. Okay. Alright, here's one for you. It all comes out in the wishy-washy. So stupid. Oh my goodness. That one was so bad it actually made me sick. What does that even mean? I'm just gonna move on from here to lucky number 13. Here we go. Number 13. Piano lessons can be murder. Front tagline. Play it again, hands. So I got all this copy from the Blogger Beware website by Troy Steele. It's a defunct website that chronicled all 62 of the original Goosebumps books, and Troy very wonderfully reproduced all of this material on his site, so it was easy enough for me to grab for the purposes of this series. But he actually wrote a note here under the front tagline, parenthetical, that said, "Is the target audience even going to get this pun?" I don't remember if that was actually his wording or mine, but that was his thought, was that, what the hell, play it again, hands? Are middle grade kids in the 90s going to even know what the hell that means? And I don't know if I did or not, so it's a hanging question. Back tagline. Practice till you drop. Dead. Again, it's like the 3 question marks. Did you really need to add dead to the end of that statement? Practice till you drop. I assume that is going to be from great fatigue. Does it make it spookier that you're dead from practicing the piano as opposed to just really tired from? I don't know. It's kind of lame one way or the other, right? When Jerry finds a dusty old piano in the attic of his new house, his parents offer to pay for lessons. Lucky Jerry. At first, taking piano lessons seems like a cool idea. But there's something creepy about Jerry's piano teacher, Dr. Shriek. Wait, is this right? But there's something creepy about Jerry's piano teacher, Dr. Shriek. And then it says, something creepy. I don't know if that's another weird typo along the lines of the one from Night of the Living Dummy, but that's what I've got here. And Troy noted the typo from Night of the Living Dummy, but there doesn't seem to be any note here. So, and I don't know if I have the book here to verify whether it repeats something creepy, but we'll just take it that it does. Something Jerry can't quite put his finger on. Then Jerry hears the stories, terrifying stories, about the students at Dr. Shriek's music school. Students who went in for a lesson and never came out. Oh boy, piano lessons can be murder. I do remember this one being weird, right? Weird cover. You really don't know what to expect with this one, and appropriately enough, that really doesn't change once you start reading the story. You really have no idea where it's going to go. It seems with this one, good old Bob Stine just started with the concept of, you know what kids hate? They hate sitting for long periods of time learning how to play the piano. How can I make that creepy for these little whippersnappers? Oh, I know. I'll have robots. Because I think that is what we eventually come to find out, is that all the students under Dr. Shriek's tutelage are being roboticized and droidicized. I don't know why. I don't remember why. They're just being made into robots for some reason. I believe Dr. Shriek himself is in fact an automaton, because it is his hands that I think pop off at one point, and I don't know if they've got, kind of T-1000 metal work going on underneath, or if they're, just empty holes and the rest of him's a robot. I don't remember. Some of the kind of weird, obscure details that I remember from this story is that it's set during the winter. I remember that because there's discussion of snow, and having lived in Florida for all of my childhood and most of my life, that was a very strange concept to me. So I guess it was kind of memorable that snow was mentioned and the cold was mentioned so much. I want to say it even takes place around the holiday season, because I remember the narrator, Jerry, compares Dr. Shriek's appearance to Santa Claus, because he's kind of this, rotund, jolly old guy. He's got the long white beard, and I think he might even be wearing red clothing, so Jerry likens him to Santa Claus. So that was just kind of a, weird connection that I made with the story, like, oh, this creepy instructor looks like Santa Claus, and it takes place during the winter, and oh, by the way, he's a robot. Outside of those things, I don't remember much about the story. I really wonder in retrospect, like, man, how did Bob stretch this concept out to the length of a Goosebumps book? Like, what were the cliffhangers like in this story, and how creepy could they really have been? How there's some very rude birds that are speaking to each other in my backyard right now. They have no idea that I'm filming a video, but I still consider it extremely crass on their part to be so chatty right now. It's like 10 o'clock at night, come on. But yeah, like, what were the cliffhangers in this story? Like, I can't even begin to guess, but apparently they lead to this endpoint of, oh my goodness, I'm succumbing to a school of android pianists. So yeah, doesn't get much scarier than that. So I don't think that Dr. Shriek's identity as an android is the surprise ending itself. I think that's discovered, more towards the earlier part of the climax. But yeah, I don't remember what the final shock surprise ending to this was. So just like be careful what you wish for, I'm just going to fathom a guess, a complete guess on this one. This is a story that I want to say ended on a happy-ish note, in that I feel like Jerry defeated the big bad in the story and, laid rest to the spooky thing that was happening in the story. So I feel like we find him at the end, in kind of a nice place, and he kind of has like a cheeky retort of sorts that, after all that, I find that I really am learning the piano quite well, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I don't know. Maybe that's how it ended. Maybe it's not. I'm gonna go with my guess. That's what I'm gonna go with for today. Alright, guess what, folks? My battery's running out, so I think I'm going to squeeze in 2 more of these books and actually cover even less titles than I did during my first hour-long video. How insane is that? Before you know it, I really am going to be doing 1 book at a time with these videos. This is very sad, but let's see if we can crunch these last 2 in. Number 14, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Front tagline: Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Back tagline: What big teeth you have! Alright, we'll call back to our fairy tale beginnings. There's something horrible happening in Fever Swamp. Something really horrible. Okay, so yeah, I have a feeling that that repetition of something creepy from Piano Lessons Can Be Murder was not an accident, because there's something horrible happening in Fever Swamp, something really horrible. Okay, I get it. You're trying to use up your space on the back copy there. You could have just left it at something horrible and moved on from there. I really didn't know that it was really horrible. I really didn't know that it was really horrible. It started with a strange howling at night. Then there was the rabbit, torn to shreds. Everyone thinks Grady's new dog is responsible. After all, he looks just like a wolf, profiling. And he seems a little on the wild side. Oh, he stays out late at night. You never can reach him on his cell phone. He's a little on the wild side. But Grady knows his dog is just a regular old dog. Well, I'm sure your dog would love to hear you say that, jackass. And most dogs don't howl at the moon, or disappear at midnight, or change into terrifying creatures when the moon is full. Or do they? Ah, there's the return of our favorite ending question. Or do they? Or won't they? Or am I? There we go again. Or do they? So, I love how the plot summary was leading us to believe that, hey, these people are crazy and superstitious. They think that a dog is doing all these things. They think it's some kind of ridiculous creature of myth. But then, in a way, it kind of like backtracks and says, well, you know, the dog does howl at the moon, and it does disappear at midnight, and it changes into terrifying creatures when the moon is full. This is like the kind of magic mirror from Let's Get Invisible. Like, that last sentence kind of flips the script there. Okay, is this dog changing into a terrifying creature when the moon is full or not? And if it is, why are you asking me all these questions? It sounds like that dog is a werewolf for sure. Why are we talking about it in questions? So, Werewolf of Fever Swamp, I have pretty fond memories of this one. I remember the grizzled old hermit that lives in the swamp and who scares the kids away from his hut. Why do I want to say that? It turns out that he's the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Which again is kind of profiling of another kind, but you know what? These Goosebumps books were not known for their social messages and acceptance. So we're just going to take that for what it is, folks. Outside of that, I don't know that I remember any incident in particular, which is kind of a shame because I love werewolves. You know, they're kind of my favorite critter. But I feel like with this story, there wasn't anything wow happening here. I feel like the wow werewolf story of the Goosebumps canon actually wouldn't come until much, much later. Some of you may know what I'm talking about when I alluded to it in that way. But this was like an okay start. You know, this was a solid kind of classic werewolf narrative of, is it, in this case the dog, is it or isn't it? You know, when we usually see werewolf stories, it's are they or are they not? You know, other characters in the story, the main character perhaps, they're questioning, you know, am I this horrible creature that's going out and committing these terrible mutilations at night? So this is kind of a little bit of a flip on that classic script of, is my dog this creature? Is it more than I think it is? But yeah, I don't remember anything too starkly about this story. It's got a really nice cover. I love the kind of nighttime blues and greens of the feverish waters of Fever Swamp. Very, very nice color palette. And that's a good boy on the cover. I know it's howling at the moon, and I know it's standing over a pile of clothes. Does that mean that the wolf ate the person that was in those clothes, or is the person that was in those clothes? I don't know, but look at him. He's a good boy. So the twist ending, I think I do remember this one. I think it turns out that Grady's dog is a werewolf, for sure. In the end, it turns out that Grady himself gets afflicted with a werewolf curse, and every night when the moon is full, he and... Does the dog have a name? Well, if it does, it doesn't mention it here. For some reason, I thought I mentioned the dog's name. But anyway, Grady goes out with his dog at night when the moon is full. They both turn into werewolves, and they just tromp through Fever Swamp like a couple of canines, having a good time. They're both a little on the wild side now. We're two wild and crazy lichens, and they're just having a ball. And I think that's a really sweet ending. I mean, who amongst us would not want that if our dog was a werewolf, or even if our dog had the ability to transform us, their owners, their people, their humans, into dogs, and we just go out on nightly romps with them. I mean, that is a fantastically happy ending in my book. So good for you, Grady, and good for you, Grady's dog. So tagline, let's see, who's afraid of the big bad wolf and what big teeth you have? So we got our shout outs to Little Red Riding Hood all suited there. Let's see, Fever Swamp, okay, I think I got one. So the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, got it? All right. It's the flu that makes you go, ah woo. Stupid, right? I don't know. They get a little better the more that I do them in the video. I think we started out really bad, and I think they've gotten a little bit better, if not necessarily in quality, at least in level of fun, right? And I think I just realized that I didn't come up with the tagline for Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. That happens. It's gonna happen. And I'm just gonna move on. Number 15. You Can't Scare Me. It's the only way you can read that title. Front tagline. They're coming for you. And of course, all you horror heads out there, I know when you hear that, you can't help but finish it off with, they're coming for you, Barbara. Back tagline. It's gonna be a scream. Courtney is a total show-off, and she knows it. That was me. She thinks she's so brave, and she's always making Eddie and his friends look like wimps. But now, Eddie's decided he's had enough. He's going to scare Courtney once and for all. And he's come up with the perfect plan. He's going to lure Courtney down to Muddy Creek, because Eddie knows Courtney believes in that silly rumor about the monsters. Mud monsters that live in the creek. Too bad Eddie doesn't believe in the rumor, because it just might be true. Well, if it isn't, this is going to be a really disappointing Goosebumps book, isn't it, folks? So yes, as it turns out, the rumor is true. This is one of those books, though, that has this premise of, oh, are the monsters real or not? Which can be a hard sell when you have rabid readers who are coming here for the monsters, right? This was the problem we ran into with the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Wasn't enough mummy action, especially when you put that bad boy right on your front cover. We kind of run into the same thing here. We got these awesome, mucky-looking mud monsters on the cover. They are pretty badass, I gotta say. Who doesn't love a good swamp monster? So shout out to the muck monsters, but that cover is pretty much the best that it's going to get, because these guys don't show up until, I want to say, the climax, because this story is predicated on, oh my goodness, we're going to scare this girl with the rumor of these muck monsters, and our friends are going to dress up, and they're going to be totally convincing, and it's going to be great, and yeah, wow, look at them go, they're scaring the pants off her, and wait a minute, you're here, then who's out there? You know, so it's that kind of thing, which can only happen at the end of the story, when you have that kind of story, right? So what that inevitably means is that it's going to disappoint in the creature department, because you're only going to find out at the end that there really are muck monsters, and whoop, there they are. I guess we better run away from them, so it doesn't take up the amount of the narrative that you would hope for in this kind of story. It's just kind of relegated to those last few chapters, and that's a little disappointing because yeah, I can't remember anything that happened prior to that like final leg of the story, that climax. It feels like something that could have been served better as a short story, or if that revelation from the climax was moved up. So they bring, Courtney to the swamp at the midpoint of the book, and then they discover that the muck monsters are real, and then the rest of the story is a considerable, epic, so to speak, journey of them trying to escape the swamp and escape these monsters. But instead, it's kind of like the twist. It's not the final twist, but it's pretty close to it. At least that's what I remember it being. So we don't get nearly enough time in the swamp with the muck monsters, and it could have been a totally different story if that event was just moved up a little bit. But as it is, I don't remember it as that being the case. And instead, they try to scare Courtney in the earlier parts of the story with lame stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the muck monsters, and you're just like, why am I here? Why am I reading this? And, that's never a good time for anybody. That's never fun. A little lackluster in the delivery department with number 15, You Can't Scare Me. I will give the cover props for stirring our imaginations and promising something better. And as I have proved in this video, and coming up with some completely original and off-the-wall endings, we can just use the cover as the basis of our own story, right? Alright, so yeah, I don't remember whatever the final twist was. Okay, the muck monsters are real. I presume they escape. They're fine. What on earth could Bob Stine have possibly had on the last line of that final page? Is like, aha, gotcha. I don't know. I would say like, oh, they discover that one of the muck monsters hitched a ride on the bus, but that's actually the twist of our next story, so I know I would be wrong there. I know that even Bob Stine wouldn't rip himself off from one book to the next in consecutive order. Yeah, I can't remember what the final twist of this one was, and I can't even make up one. It's just completely dried and empty up here. So y'all are going to have to tell me what that final twist to You Can't Scare Me was. But let's see if we can come up with a tagline for You Can't Scare Me. They're coming for you, and it's going to be a scream. Okay, let's see. Ooh, I think I got one. Come down to the swamp where the mud runs cold. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Alright folks, so like I said, my battery's about to die here in just a few short minutes. I think we're going to call it a wraps here. But I'm glad that we were able to have a nice round number for this video. We covered 6 titles up through number 15, so that'll give us a good leg up on future videos. So like I mentioned before, if you got memories of any of the books we discussed here in today's video, drop them in the comments, send me a message. I absolutely love hearing from all of you. I love hearing your thoughts on this stuff, so don't be shy. We're all friends here, and as I said, I love to hear what your thoughts are on my memories. Let me know if I got something totally wrong. Let me know if you thought my tagline stunk. They probably did, but I love to hear I'd love to see a ranking of how well I did, like which one stunk the least and which one stunk the most. We will continue with our Goosebumps by Memory series at intervals in the future. If you really like this stuff though, let me know in the comments. Give me that push. If you'd like to see these come out a little bit more frequently. I really love doing it, so if y'all love or even like watching it, let me know. So thanks so much for watching. Tune in next time when we tackle the next set of Goosebumps by Memory.